Hi everybody, Jacquie McIntyre here. I just wanted to drop in and give a few details about the 30-day reboot that's coming up. It's beginning on the 1st of November, and go through a few details about that, tell you why I decided to do it. So for those of you that don't know, I've set up an event within this page. Because of the way that Facebook works now, some of you will see it, some of you won't see it. So it's going to be a lot easier for me and a lot easier for you guys to understand what we're doing and to be able to jump in on board with this if I drop in every few days and I give you just a little bit more information about it. It is a very big technique. There are a lot of concepts that go along with this technique. There are many different ways that it is going to benefit you and bring flavour to your life, and there are a lot of different ways that you can implement the technique as well. So I don't want to give you all that information today, because if I was teaching this in class, I would be drip feeding this information to you over 2 days. So to prevent you from going into overload, I'm just going to give you a little bit of juicy information here and there over the next week or two. If you have any questions while I'm going through this today, then let me know, put your comments in there. I'm running the Facebook Live through my phone, so sometimes they come up, sometimes they don't. You might want to do a little like or love. I love the love hearts, so send me some love hearts, and then that way it'll let me know that you're there and that perhaps you have something to say. So what I decided to do is I wanted to run a 30-day reboot using this technique that some of you know very well. Some of you, it will be brand new information for you, and it's called Cortices. The reason why is, A, I've never done one before, but it's always been on my hit list, on my agenda to do, because they're very, very powerful. 2 is that I know that this technique can not only bring immediate changes to a person's life, but it can really bring profound long-term changes to your life as well. For majority of people who learn this technique and implement it into their lives, they love it so much that they end up making it a part of their everyday life. Just as you would get up and go do some exercise, or you would brush your teeth or something like that, you can implement this technique without risk of it hurting you or harming you in any way into your daily life. Easy peasy. You can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening before you go to bed. Now, it definitely comes up in people's sessions a lot as a technique or part of their formula that we need to tap out, we need to implement it, and it is sensational. And it comes up for a lot of different reasons in many different varied ways. So I don't really want to talk about that too much. Just that it's something that comes up very, very commonly. It is the one technique that I've been able to teach clients and family members and friends and students for a long time without it needing to be part of a program. So for those of you that don't know, the Cortices technique is the first one in the Access protocol. So there is 2 classes that I personally teach, among other ones. I teach 2 classes for the International Body Talk Association. And these are classes that come from the Body Talk system. One is an Access class that is delivered specifically for people. And then I do an Access for Animals class, which is delivered to people so that they can learn how to do this specific protocol of techniques that you would then apply to animals, right? Now, I teach those classes either separately, or in recent times, I've actually just started teaching them as a combination class. So it will be Access for Animals and people. It's a full 2-day class, very interactive, bunches of fun. I'm doing one in Gympie. I'm pretty sure it's 2nd, 3rd of December. That'll be my last one for the year, and be my last one in Gympie for quite a while, just as a FYI. So if you're interested in joining me for that, you can. So Cortices is the first technique out of that whole protocol that you would learn, regardless of whether you're learning access for people or access for animals. That first technique is the same. And the reason for that is because it's such a profound technique that has the ability to be able to sort of stop the brain from being in chaos or from dysfunctioning or not communicating properly, not doing its job properly. If you're in stress mode, if your nervous system's gone into fight, flight, it gets the brain to sort of stop, center yourself, take a breath, reorientate yourself to where you are, what's going on now, and then it asks the brain to do a reassessment of what's going on right now, not only environmentally for you, but what's going on internally that we perhaps can get the brain to reassess and make changes to, so that there's better functioning, not only in the brain, but also in the body as well. So the more you do the technique, the better it works, the stronger the pathways it will lay down neurologically, so that the moment you go to do the cortices technique on yourself or somebody else, the response is instant and the changes are instant. The way that the innate wisdom wants to rebalance and recommunicate the systems and the cells and the endocrine glands and the organs within the body is like magic. It's so fast. So the more you do it, the stronger it becomes. The more you do it, the better the results. The more you do it, the happier you're going to feel, the healthier you're going to be. So not only is it fantastic to do it from an individual perspective, say at home doing it once a day, but when you join a group and you do it as part of a group, that group forms a matrix, and that matrix becomes very powerful, which means then that the potential shifts that you can go through, the changes that you can observe in your health, in your well-being, in your happiness, can be magnified unbelievably. So that's one of the other reasons why I love doing group work. I love doing group sessions. I love doing these 30-day group reboots so that we can all join in together. So I'm going to be taking you through the whole technique, explaining how we do it. Every single day we're going to be jumping online live here in the group. It's going to take roughly around about 2 to 5 minutes. There'll be the odd day where we actually spend a little bit more time live online, because if you guys ask questions, if you have any feedback, if you have any comments about interesting things that you've noticed from doing the techniques, then definitely I want you to ask that. I want you to pop it into the chat box as we're going through and doing this every day, so that we can explore it, so that we can talk about it, so that you can share in your successes and everything like that. So generally speaking, when we start these on the 1st of November, they'll be running at 7:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So I live in Queensland, so it'll be 7:30 Queensland time, AM. And the intention is that we're going to come in, do cortices together. We'll all tap out our cortices, and any questions that come up, you can pop those in. I can answer them along the way. So it'll be very interactive, very experiential. You'll be getting a lot of benefit out of it. You'll definitely be seeing the value. You'll get to ask me questions, which is brilliant, because we normally are not in this situation where you get to do that so often. And we'll have a lot of fun. We're going to do an assessment, a brief assessment, prior to the 1st of November. So I'll probably pop in online towards the end of October. I'll take you through a little self-assessment that you can do, or an evaluation, so that we can check out what your current experience of life is at that point in time, the way that you feel emotionally, mentally, psychologically, what pain or restriction you notice in your body. If you have any particular health issues going on, then you want to get yourself a book or a piece of paper, and we're going to be going through. It'll take about 10-15 minutes to do this, maybe a little bit less depending how we all go, and you can jot down all these areas. And then what we're going to do is we're going to spend the 30 days going through and tapping out our cortices and really letting this soak in very, very deeply. And at the end of the 30 days, we're going to do that same evaluation assessment, and you're going to be noticing all the things that have changed for you, which will be sensational, will be so good. So, if you have any questions before we start on the 1st of November, anything comes up for you along the way, then I really want you to pop it into the posts, ask me those questions, because quite often a question that you have is something that somebody else has as well. Okay? If you're a person that... So I just want to talk about why would you do this, because it's a technique that I recommend to everybody. I don't know a person on the planet that couldn't use or benefit from the Cortices technique. So if you're a person who gets headaches, this is fantastic for people that have those problems. If you're a person that have a disruption with your endocrine system, hormone balances, this is going to be great for you. If you are subject to a lot of stress in your life, if you are juggling a lot of things in your life between yourself, your family, school, work, whatever it is, if you've got something really significant going on that you're trying to navigate in your life at the moment that you're having a hard time with, then you're absolutely going to want to be part of this reboot for the 30 days. This is a technique that is fantastic to do for people who have nausea, whether it be because they've got a vomiting bug that's going on. This is a technique that's fantastic for people that are having problems concentrating or focusing, if you've got exams coming up. I have facilitated this technique in so many different ways. I'm going to share a few of those different situations with you as time goes on over the next couple of weeks when I drop in and give you some more information. But one of the ones that I can think of that I commonly talk about in class when I teach is I've used the Cortices technique in a accident situation where two cars had T-boned one another and they'd come into contact. And I was in the middle of waiting for a client to come in to have a session. And I heard the accident. I ran out to the car and I was drawn to one car, and there was a lady in there and she was hysterical and she was in a lot of pain and she was screaming, and she kept talking about the baby and how she was pregnant. And if you come and do an access class with me, it doesn't matter whether it's access for people or access for humans, you will get taught as part of that class a fast aid protocol, and it is a protocol that you use in emergency situations. It is the bomb. It's sensational when it comes to being able to implement something very, very non-invasive but very effective that is going to help stabilize a person whilst you're waiting for medical help, whether it's paramedics coming or something else, right? Because that technique, or the protocol for that fast aid, is designed to bring somebody out of shock. That's what Cortices does. So even if you were to forget the fast aid protocol, you would just remember Cortices in the back of your mind. I'll just tap out Cortices. Because it takes, what, a minute to tap out Cortices, a round of Cortices? And because it's non-invasive, and because you can't hurt yourself and you can't hurt somebody else with the technique, then you can do Cortices technique over and over and over again. And what it does is it just gets the brain to stop, reassess, take a deep breath, make changes so that things can start operating the way that they're meant to. And that's what I did for this lady in this car accident. I just told her that I was going to do a technique that was going to allow her brain to be able to think more clearly about what it needed to do for her right in that moment. Because she was so worried about the state of her car and what her husband was going to say, and she was petrified about her baby, because I think from memory she was about 25 weeks pregnant, maybe 27 weeks pregnant. And she was petrified. She had enormous abdominal pain. She was hyperventilating. She was in a really, really bad way. And the paramedics had been called, but we had to wait for them to get there. So I had this tool that I could use and implement right there in that moment that I knew that would help her enormously. So I told her that I was going to do this technique. She gave me permission, and I just started to really lightly tap out cortices over the top of her brain. And when I drop in another couple of days, I'm going to take you through the tapping process. I'm going to take you through the hand placements that we do on the brain. I just kept doing that over and over and over again. I think by the third or fourth cycle, she'd stopped hyperventilating. She'd started to reorientate herself to like her spatial awareness improved, so she could really start to get a handle on where she was, what had just happened. So rather than being in shock and fight flight, her brain had really started to process the whole situation, and she was being quite calm. We did a couple of more cycles of doing the cortices technique. Her abdominal, the pain in her abdominal region just completely stopped. She even started to make a little bit of a joke about how her husband was gonna, give her a hard time for smashing up the car. And then by the time the paramedics arrived, which was about 20-25 minutes, she was in a really, really good space. And I was just so grateful that I had this tool that metaphorically I could pull out of my back pocket and be able to do for her right there and then, that I knew was going to make a gigantic impact for this person's life and for her baby as well. So she was taken off to hospital, and she actually came into the clinic and saw me probably about a week later, I think it was. She just popped in very briefly just to show her face, and she said, "Hey, thank you very much. Just wanted to let you know that I'm doing really well and the baby's fine." And we had, no long-lasting thing from that, and we had no problems. So that was fantastic. There is going to be so many ways that you can implement this technique for many different reasons. Car accidents is just one of them. People that are experiencing or have just recently experienced seizures, that is sensational for that, right? So I'm hope that you can join me, jump on board, add to the mix, add your comments, your questions, any concerns you have, especially the wins and the successes, the changes that you notice along the way. Definitely we want to hear about those. If you have any questions in the meantime, send me a message, pop it into the post here, and I'll drop in and I'll do a few more live feeds between now and when we begin on the 1st of November, and we'll definitely do that little evaluation before we kick off, and that will be at the end of October. Let's bring some value to this and give you a tool that you can use and implement in a really meaningful way in your life. I better get going. I've got some more work to do, so I'll talk to you really soon. Thanks, guys.